Compound proposition. A proposition is a compound proposition if it contains more than one proposition. Let's look at the following examples. India is part of Asian continent and Delhi is the capital of India. Is it a compound proposition? Yes, it is a compound proposition because it can be broken into two different propositions. So, what are those two different propositions? Proposition 1 is India is part of Asian continent. Proposition 2 is Delhi is the capital of India. In simple language, Proposition 1, India is part of Asian continent is the first piece of information, and Proposition 2, Delhi is the capital of India, it is the second piece of information. So, a compound proposition contains multiple pieces of information. Important observation here is the truth value of a compound proposition depends on the truth values of individual pieces of information. Let's continue with the same example which we have seen earlier. India is part of Asian continent and Delhi is the capital of India. If the first piece of information is true and the second piece of information true, then the final truth value will be true. If the first one is true and the second one is false, the final truth value will be false. If the first one is false, the second one is true, then the final truth value will be false. If the first one is false and the second one is false, the final truth value will be false. So we need to observe the final truth values of a compound proposition are dependent upon the truth values of its individual propositions. Let us consider one more example. Lilies are white. Is it a compound proposition? It is not a compound proposition because it cannot be broken into two different propositions. Here there is only one proposition which is lilies are white. So a proposition which cannot be broken into simpler propositions is called as a primitive proposition. Now let's look at the definition of a primitive proposition. A proposition which cannot be broken into simple propositions is called a primitive proposition. Let's take a few examples. Lilies are white, roses are red, all cows are brown, there is life on Mars. All these sentences are primitive propositions because they cannot be broken down into any further simpler propositions. In simple language, primitive propositions contain only one piece of information. Now, let us try to understand how compound propositions can be formed. Let's consider the following primitive propositions. Lilies are white, roses are red, all cows are brown, there is life on Mars. Now, all these simpler propositions can be combined with connectors such as and, comma, or to form a compound proposition. Let's look at a few examples. Lilies are white and roses are red. Lilies are white or roses are red. All cows are brown and there is life on Mars. All cows are brown or there is life on Mars. Lilies are white and roses are red, or all cows are brown and there is life on Mars. Lilies are white or roses are red and all cows are brown or there is life on Mars. All these propositions are compound propositions because they can be broken down into further simpler propositions. Now let us take a summary on primitive and compound propositions. A primitive proposition contains only one piece of information, whereas a compound proposition contains multiple pieces of information. The final truth value of a compound proposition depends on the truth values of its individual pieces of information.